friends, E.C. Maltby here, Senior Pastor of the True Holiness Saints Center in the beautiful city of Conway, Arkansas. And you know what time it is. It is Wednesday Word time. So what is our Wednesday Word for tonight? Our Wednesday Word is depletion. I want to talk to you tonight about the things that drain, deplete, and empty your spiritual tank. So when we think about the things that drain, deplete, or empty your spiritual tank, there are three things that come to mind. And I want to quickly share them with you tonight. Number one, spiritual compromise. Spiritual compromise depletes your passion for God. When you're doing wrong and you know it, it makes connecting with God much more difficult. It makes connecting with God much more of a chore and so much less of a joy. Spiritual compromise will deplete your passion for God. So why does it deplete your spiritual passion, Pastor Maltby? Because oftentimes the guilt associated with bad behavior has a way of zapping your spiritual energy. Think about it like this. The closer you are to God, the less energy it takes to get to Him. Now let me say that again. The closer in proximity you are to God, the less spiritual energy it takes to get to Him. So here's my question. Are you 5 steps away from God? Are you 5 miles away from God? Or are you 50 miles away from God? Because the closer you are to Him, the less energy it takes to get to Him. So you've got to begin to think about, in spiritual proximity, how close are you to God? Isaiah 59:2 says these words, "But your iniquities have separated you," or have put distance between you and your God. "Your sins have hidden His face from you so that He will not hear." Please understand, spiritual compromise always puts distance between you and God. You're no longer that 5 steps away. You're no longer that 5 miles away. You're further and further away, and it takes much more energy to get back to Him. When it comes to depletion, spiritual depletion is caused by spiritual compromise. But then secondly tonight, spiritual depletion is caused not only by spiritual compromise, but secondly is caused by doubters in your ear. Yeah. Spiritual depletion is always caused when you have a doubter in your ear. See, when the people in your ear are constantly nitpicking everything you do, when they're constantly nitpicking everything you say, when they're constantly pointing out even the smallest faults in your life, it can spiritually deplete you. When they're constantly telling you why you can't do it and why it's not going to work, it can spiritually deplete you. And if you're not careful, you will allow the doubters in your life begin to drain your very passion for achievement and success. When all you hear is you can't, you can't, you can't. It can't be done. You're not the person to do it. When they're always pointing out your faults and your flaws, it can deplete your passion for success. To make matters worse, dear hearts, sometimes the most negative people can be your family and your close friends. It's one thing to hear negativity outside the camp, but it's quite a different thing to hear negativity in your inner circle. When they are the ones doubting you, when they're the ones that are speaking negativity to you, it can deplete you spiritually. Maybe it's a good place to stop and remind you of Paul's words in Philippians 4:13. I love what Paul says here to the doubters. I love what Paul says here to those who tend to be negative. Paul reminds us that I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. In fact, let me pause right here. In fact, this is a good time for you to put some hand clapping emojis in the comment section. Here's a good time to put in the comment section our social media quote for tonight. So what is our social media quote for tonight? Based upon Paul's words, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Here it is. Social media quote. Always remember these words. You don't need their permission to be blessed. Now, that's somebody's word tonight. Yeah. You don't need their permission to be blessed. You don't need their endorsement to be blessed. You don't need their approval to be blessed. And you don't need their backing to be blessed. Yes, I'd like for you to pat me on the back, but I don't need your pat on the back. Yes, I would love to have you to compliment me and to approve and endorse what I do, but I don't need any of it. As long as I've got God on my side, 1 plus God is always the majority. And if God says yes, it doesn't matter who says no. If God opens the door, can't no man close the door. You've got to understand that you need to make sure that the doubters are not in your ear. Constant negativity, constant naysayers, constant doubters will drain your passion for achievement and success. So when it comes to depletion, more specifically spiritual depletion, it starts with spiritual compromise. The further you are away from God, the more energy it takes to get back to them. But then secondly, doubt is in your ear can drain your passion for success. And then finally tonight, the last one I want to mention to you is spiritual starvation. Yeah, spiritual starvation can deplete your spiritual tank. See, when you don't eat physical food over an extended period of time, your body eventually becomes weak. And if you don't correct the issue, you will soon die of starvation. The same is also true in the spirit realm. If you don't eat the proper spiritual nourishment, if you don't take the proper amount of prayer, Bible reading, and worshiping your God, you will become spiritually weak. And if you don't correct the matter, soon you will die a spiritual death. This is why Jesus himself reminds us in Matthew 4:4. Jesus answered, and it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. You've got to remember the importance of spiritual nourishment. I often think about little children who don't have an appetite for their dinner. Oftentimes when a child doesn't have an appetite for dinner, you can rest assured they've been eating some junk food. Yeah. Oftentimes when kids don't want to eat their meal, it's because they have had a constant supply of junk food before their dinner time. And in the same like manner, many Christians don't have an appetite for spiritual things because of the steady diet of mental junk that we're consuming. When all through the day you are constantly consuming mental junk, it's hard to have an appetite for a spiritual meal. But being starved spiritually will deplete your spiritual passion. The Wednesday word tonight is depletion. The things that drain, deplete, and empty your spiritual tank. If you want to be strong spiritually, you got to deal with the spiritual compromise in your life. If you want to flourish spiritually, you got to deal with the doubters in your ear. And if you want to excel spiritually, you've got to deal with spiritual starvation. Until we speak again, my friends, be blessed.